What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So Democrats, they got a huge win yesterday, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. So Mary Peltola, she is going to be running for Senate in Alaska. She's going to be running against the Republican Dan Sullivan. And so we're going to take a look at the +1 model. So looking at this model, give us a good idea where she stands against Dan Sullivan. And then also we're going to take a look at the Senate map, because when we're looking at some of these different states, we had toss-ups before. I think Alaska is now should be considered a toss-up, because this is going to be a very, very close race. So that is what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have a political science degree, over 15 years working in political campaigns. And in this video and in all my videos, we focus on the issues that are impacting the 2026 midterm election. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, please like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at the AI model. And if you guys don't know, this is the +1 model. We basically trained AI to give us a probability when it comes to who's going to win in the 2026 midterm election. And so looking at the first part here, I will go over this in more detail. I know you guys, some of you guys watch all my videos, but some of you guys don't. And so we'll go over this at the very end. This will make sense at the very end. So before we even get started, I have a new little graph here that I want to show you, because this is a better illustration so you understand where we're getting this information from, the percentage, so how it's weighted. And so when we're looking at this 25% here, this is the state baseline. So we're basically looking at how the states usually vote. Okay, so if Alaska, do they vote red? Do they vote blue? So that's what we're looking at there. 25%, it's weighted 25%. And so polling snapshot. So polling snapshot, that is rated 30%. So we take a look at some of the different polls. So when we're looking at the polling is ranked higher than anything else when it comes to the weights here. Okay, and then we have the candidate strength. So incumbency, you know, are you an incumbent? Do you have certain qualities that voters would gravitate to vote for you? That's 15%. Fundraising and resources, 10%. And then the last one here is the macro factors. So we're talking mainly about the economy. So these are the categories. These are the 5 categories that we use to determine, to give us a probability of who is going to win. And when we're looking at the scale, and as I stated, we'll talk about that at the end, or I'll show you at the end, but we're looking at a scale where 50% is a toss-up, okay? So 50% straight down the middle is a toss-up. And then when you move to the left side, this is the Democratic side and this is the Republican side. So on the Democratic side, we're looking at, if we're 55, that would be a toss-up, but it would edge for the Democrats. But as you move further to the left, that means that the probability is much greater for a Democrat to win. Same thing when it goes to a Republican. When we're looking at Republicans, if we're looking at 45, that's a toss-up, and the edge, Republicans have an edge there. But as we move further to the right, that is a stronger Republican candidate. Okay? All right, so now that we've gone over that, let's take a look at the information that we gathered here. Okay, so the first thing, baseline, state baseline. Now, I had to break this up, and I'll explain the reason why I broke this up. So when we're looking at, if we go back to the 2024 elections, we saw Trump win by about 13 points. Okay, so when we're looking at the state baseline, they're basing it on that. However, I wanted to run different scenarios, because Mary Peltola, she ran in 2024. She lost, but she ran. And so she lost by about 2 points. And so I have a scenario here, scenario E and F. That's Republican +3. So we're basically saying, because she ran and she lost by about 2.5, I want to have a category that shows that. And then I also just threw in a Republican +5. Okay, so is it really a Republican +13 if Mary Peltola is running? Because she didn't lose by 13 in 2024, she lost by 2.5. So that's why I wanted to make some adjustments there, and we'll have different scores as a result of that. Okay, so let's look at the polling snapshot. Polling snapshot shows we only have 2 polls. Okay, we have a Data for Progress and this Alaska Survey Research. Alaska Survey Research had Peltola at +1.8. Now, I need to mention this. This was back in October. Okay, so this was back prior to her announcing that she's running for Senate. Now that she's announced that she's running for Senate, I expect those numbers to increase. But both polls that came out are showing Mary Peltola as the, ahead, basically. Okay, so data for progress is showing +1. Okay, looking at fundraising. So fundraising, Sullivan he's an incumbent. He's able to raise money. We know that. So it's going to be more of a struggle for Peltola to raise money. Now, she's run for political office before 3 times, and she won 2 out of those 3 times. So she will be able to raise money. But right now, Sullivan does have the edge. Okay, looking at the incumbency advantage. So we know that Sullivan's an incumbent, so he's going to get a boost for that. But Peltola, she ran and she won 2 House seats. And you have to understand, in Alaska, they only have 1 House seat. So this is a statewide race. So she was able to win 2 statewide races. And so because she's run in 3 elections and she won 2 of those elections and they're statewide races, she does get a few points for that. Okay, looking at the macro factor. So right now, the generic ballot is at 4.7. This is according to Real Clear Politics. CPI, so inflation right now is at 2.7%. That will most likely change. And if that does change, we'll come back and we'll take a look at that. When we're looking at unemployment went down a little bit. So it's now at 4.4%. So now let's look at the final calculations. Now I told you we had A, B, C, D, E, F, and that was just based on the overall. So the overall Republican +13. So the state baseline here. Based on that, that's how we got these numbers. And so we'll take a look. And what I've done is each individual poll, we're seeing numbers for each individual poll. So we'll go over all of them and then I'll show you the difference. So we'll take the most drastic. So we'll look at scenario A. Scenario A is showing 43.9. Scenario B is showing 43.4. Okay, so how does that rank up? If we go up to our scale here, we can take a look at what that means. So if we're looking anywhere in this area, we're 43, so 1, 2, 3. So right here, this would mean that the race right now is tilting for Republicans. It's tilting, okay? So that Republican can have an edge, but that would be considered a toss-up. Right now, it's just a little bit better than a toss-up. Okay, so now it's tilting for Republicans. And that's when we're using Republican +13 statewide. We know that it's probably we're not going to see a Republican +13 when it comes to Alaska because Peltola has run before and she didn't lose by 13. Okay, so let's take a look at what that means. So if we're looking at, and we can go to the bottom here, if we're looking at scenario where it's R+3, then looking at the polling here, we would be at 48.9 or 48.4. Let's just take 48.9. They're pretty much very similar. So basically we're looking at about 49%. Okay, so it's right here. That is considered a toss-up. And in my opinion, that's where I think we are right now. We're at a toss-up. Okay, she just announced she's probably going to go up even higher in the polling when we see more polling coming out. And so I think in the very near future, she's probably going to be ahead. It's probably going to be the edge for Democrats. But just based on the information that we have today, it looks like it's a toss-up. Now, why does this matter? When we take a look at our current Senate map, we're looking at Republicans at 53, Democrats at 47. So Alaska is in play now, and that's good for Democrats because if you start looking at some of these different races, we know there's an open seat in Michigan, so we're going to call that a toss-up for now. In Maine, Susan Collins is going to have it's going to be hard for her to win. And so she's an incumbent, but she's going to, she has 2 good contenders that are vying for her spot. Two Democrats, they're going to be running in the primary, Mills and Plattner. So one of those Democrats will come out and they will challenge her. But right now, she's not doing too good in the polling. And so I would call that race in Maine a toss-up. North Carolina, the same thing. We have an open seat now. Tillis is not running for re-election. And so now you have Roy Cooper, who has a real good chance of winning. And when you're looking at the polling, the latest polling, it's showing that Cooper is ahead. Georgia, Ossoff. Ossoff is running. He's an incumbent. He's a Democrat. But this is going to be a close race, so we can consider that a toss-up. And now Alaska, I would consider Alaska a toss-up. Mary Peltola has the ability to beat Sullivan. And so this is how I think the Senate map looks currently. And so if we look at this, we have Democrats at 45, Democrats and Independents at 45, Republicans at 50, and then toss-ups at 5. And so this is where it's very crucial for Democrats to be able to win all of these toss-ups, okay? It's going to be very hard. It's not going to be easy, but Democrats scored a big win by Peltola running because now if Democrats win in Georgia, if they win in North Carolina, and both of these seats right now are leaning for Democrats. If we look at Maine, it's going to be a close race, but if Democrats can pull it out in Maine, if they can pull it out in Michigan, it's leaning for Democrats, then now we have Democrats at 49, Republicans at 50. And then if Democrats can win, if Peltola can win in Alaska, now we're at a 50-50. And if we're at 50-50, the Senate still goes to Republicans. Republicans still maintain control because the vice president breaks the tie. But we're looking at a 50-50 Senate. And you do have some moderate Republicans like Murkowski that vote, they vote with Democrats sometimes. So if we saw 50-50, that would be a huge victory for Democrats. And so that's why Alaska really matters. Now, to go even a step further, we also can look at Ohio. And I think Ohio, Sherrod Brown is running for Senate, and he ran in 2024. He lost. Can he come back? Can he win in 2026? And if he does, now Democrats would take control because it would be 51-49. And so we'll have to see how this all plays out. But this is the Senate map that we're looking at. And this Senate map got just a little bit better because Peltola has decided to run. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that we could see something like this? Do you think that Democrats can take back the Senate in 2026? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.